Welcome to Getting Your Board on Board with Resource Development. In my work with clubs, one of the questions and concerns that I hear the most often in RD is my board is just not engaged. I'd really like to be able to enlist them in doing resource development and they're just not interested. And I think this is one of those, it might not be you, it might be me kinds of situations. So I think that there are things that we as resource development professionals and club professionals can do to help get our boards on board with resource development in a way that is meaningful and enjoyable for them and productive for us and the club. So there is a situation that prevents our board members from being engaged in resource development. And I think this is the way we often frame it. Well, the problem is my board members just don't want anything to do with resource development. You know what's causing it? We have a bad board. It's just a bad board. We need a different board. Every other nonprofit has a great board. My board's terrible. It's definitely not anything that we did to cause these problems. It's probably something about the board. And so to solve it, I think we'll just go out, ask for the money ourselves. We'll do more grants and more events. We're not going to do a lot of individual fundraising because our board's just not engaged. I think that it's great to understand the situation in terms of problem, cause, and solution, but I think that our current mindset may not be quite on track. And so to talk about getting your board on board today, we are going to look at the problem, causes, and solution, but they're going to be a little bit different than those that we commonly talk about. So what's the problem? The problem for a lot of our board members is that the mere idea of being engaged in resource development, or as they see it, fundraising, creates sheer panic. It can create feelings of anxiety, worry about upsetting people, and a general feeling that fundraising is just, it's not something they want to be involved in. Why is that? Well, sometimes our board engagement ends up looking like this. I'm going to go out and get some things for the silent auction, and then that'll be me doing my resource development for the club. I'll get some people to come to the chili feed. I'll help set up some decorations for steak and burger, and we should be good. Well, that kind of board engagement does get us a little bit of money, but there are so many better and more enjoyable ways for your board to be engaged, ways that really use their professional expertise, experience, and their vast array of contacts, which will result in us being able to raise more money. So what's causing our board to not be engaged in resource development? Well, as you can see from these three folks in this picture, one cause that I'm going to suggest today is boredom. Another cause, though, is what we're saying about resource development. If you think about when you recruit a new board member, what kinds of things are we telling them? Oh, I've been guilty of this when I needed to fill a board spot and it was someone from a corporation I really wanted involved. I'd say, look, you just need to come to our meetings. We have a few meetings a year. Come to half of them, whatever. It's not going to take much time. You know, we just really kind of want your name on the board. Or maybe we say, everybody on the board needs to ask for money. And there are some people who just don't want to ask for money. We say, do this annual campaign stuff. We'll email you and check in. Well, the problem with that is that there's no system of accountability, another cause of a lack of board engagement. Sometimes we lead our board to think that the RD committee is going to be responsible for the resource development. Or our board starts to think that now we have someone who is a staff fundraiser, the board doesn't need to be involved in resource development. We tell our board, you know what, as long as you get other people to give, that's fine. You don't need to make a personal gift. And so the messages that we're saying may not be in line with getting our board engaged. And then this one over here on the right-hand side in the kind of pinkish red really points to where I think a lot of this starts. Let's read the financial and committee reports in detail, and then, you know, that'll be our meeting. So we're spending time in board meetings, not on resource development, on other engaging pursuits, but instead on reading reports, on voting on minutes, on things that could be handled through a consent agenda to make board meetings more engaging and to give us time to address the causes of the problems of board members not being engaged. So one reason board members aren't engaged is our board meetings are boring. I've been on boards, I've sat through board meetings where anyone could be the board member because we don't really need their feedback. We're just trying to get them to approve things. We aren't looking at their areas of expertise to improve as a board in all ways, including including fundraising. And we're not getting them involved in ways that are meaningful or exciting. No one joins a board because they want to hear countless committee reports. No one joins a board because they want to get emails about how they haven't done a good job raising money for the annual campaign. No one joins a board because they want to give money. People join boards because they care about the cause. And so when we aren't reigniting the passion of our board members, when we aren't helping to make it exciting, and when their work doesn't feel meaningful, it's really hard for them to be engaged. So how does your board perceive resource development? First of all, they perceive it as incredibly intimidating. They probably think it's not their job. I wasn't told when I joined this board that I needed to do fundraising, and so clearly it's not my job. Many of your boards see transactions as resource development. In other words, what I need to be doing is selling some tickets, getting a couple people to come to the special event, asking 10 friends for 25 bucks, and that's resource development. They may also see RD as something that they don't know how to do. And as a result of them not knowing how to do it, they're not engaged in it. And lastly, there's simply a feeling that resource development is icky. It's dirty. It's not something that we want to be involved in. Well, more training and education can help with a lot of those things. The way that we engage our board can help with a lot of those things. So what's the solution to get happy board members who are engaged and involved in resource development? The first is all of these address the causes of a lack of engagement. And the first is starting with the board contract and a board member annual development plan. So this means that when a board member joins, you're very clear and upfront about the expectations. Yes, that may cause you to not be able to recruit some of those board members who are from corporations or families that you really, really wanted to have represented. However, why have a warm body taking up a seat or not even showing up for board meetings simply because of who they represent, when you could have someone who really cares about the cause and who really wants to be involved? So your board contract should outline the expectations for a board member, and your current board can help to develop this board contract. They can sign the contract themselves, and you can use it going forward to clearly say, look, you need to be at 80% of meetings. We expect you to make a sacrificial personal gift. We want you to be a loud, proud advocate for our work in the community, and you're going to be involved in resource development. So a board contract is a great way to address the causes of this problem. There's a download for you that's called Board Member Individual Development Plan. And what the Board Member Individual Development Plan is a chance for the executive director in concert with your board chair to sit down with each member of your board and talk to them about their goals for the year, what they can contribute, and their circle of influence, the people that they can bring into the umbrella of the Boys and Girls Club as donors, as volunteers, as advocates and champions, whatever. But it's a chance to get your board members thinking differently about their service. Because yes, they do have a fiduciary responsibility, and yes, they should be making sure you're financially solvent and everything's above board. But one of the important ways to do that, of course, is by raising money. The next way to address the cause is through training. Opportunities just like this Quickenar are open to your board members. You can subscribe them to our newsletters that we have here at BGCA, and any of our other resources that are available for you as staff are available for boards as well. See if you can spend maybe 5 minutes at the start of each board meeting training your board on something that has to do with resource development. What's stewardship? How does it work? That kind of thing. The next reason for a lack of board engagement is a lack of a culture of philanthropy. Quite simply, a culture of philanthropy recognizes that every person in the organization, from the board all the way to the person who cleans your windows once a week, has some kind of a role to play in developing and nurturing philanthropic relationships. Everyone is able to contribute something to philanthropy. And helping your board members see that culture of philanthropy doesn't mean everyone in the organization asks for money. It means that everyone in the organization has a role to play. And that brings me to meaningful engagement. All aspects of a board member's service to the organization need to be meaningful. Board meetings need to be spent on meaningful business with the opportunity to use their strengths to help you. For example, let's say that you have someone at your organization who is with a large corporation in town. Rather than recruiting them simply because you're hoping to get that corporation's gift, enlist their help in looking over the proposals that you're giving to corporations so that they can read it with the same kind of a corporate eye that you might not have. Let's say you have someone on your board who's very active in Kiwanis. Can they help you to come and speak before the Kiwanis Club? Help you to apply for that Kiwanis grant through our relationship with the Boys and Girls Clubs in Kiwanis, and so forth. There's meaningful ways to engage them in resource development that don't necessarily include asking for money. Of course, stewardship is one area where all board members should be involved because it's a great way to gain comfort with resource development. And lastly, reignite your board members' passion for the Boys and Girls Clubs. Get them to come through the doors and spend time with children by creating structured opportunities for interaction. Let them know specifically when they can come and what they can do. Invite them to speak. Invite them to lead tours. Invite them to come to your day for kids and play dodgeball. Invite them to come and read to the kids, to do art projects, things that will get them excited. I don't know how many times I've been in front of a board of directors and asked, when was the last time you were at the club? Only to hear crickets. And this to me is absolutely ridiculous. Imagine if you had a board member who was on the board of the local symphony. And when someone said, oh, the symphony's been great this year, the board member said, is it? I've never heard him play. We always meet when the symphony isn't actually on. That's exactly what our board members will say. Oh, I've only been to the board when there aren't kids there. Ridiculous. Okay, so can your board members be engaged in philanthropy without asking? You bet they can. No one wants a hesitant solicitor, certainly least of all your donor. There are lots of ways to engage your board in resource development. You can do the ask. As a staff member and probably your board chair and a couple other members of your board, we can ask over and over and over anybody, anytime, anywhere. We need the board members to help cultivate donors, to build those important relationships, to thank people, to be our tireless champions in the community. And as our board members get involved in stewardship and cultivation, they'll gain comfort and understanding of philanthropy as a relationship-based process and as something that's important to the donor. That will make them more comfortable when it's time to ask, because soon they're going to understand that the people who make significant gifts have a joy in giving and that it's fun to be a part of that process. Soon they're going to realize that by the time you ask for any significant gift, you already know the answer is going to be yes. And there's a resource for you to download that's an article about how board members can be engaged in philanthropy without asking. Speaking of which, these are the resources that I have for you to download to talk about getting your board on board. They include a great ebook by Jerry Panis called I'm Not Going to Ask, which addresses all of the different objections to being involved in RD that board members have and great answers for them. There's the Board Member Individual Development Plan, which we talked about. There's 10 Ways Board Members Can Fundraise Without Asking for Money by Rachel Muir. It's a great article. And there's a PDF of this PowerPoint. So I hope that looking at the problems, causes, and solutions of a lack of board engagement helps to get you started thinking about how to address that at your club. With that, our 15 minutes are up. It's time for questions. I'm going to stay on the line so that anyone who has any questions can ask them of me now, but we are concluded. You can just go over to the handout section of your screen and download the attachments. If you don't have time to stay on or you'd like to talk to me in a little more detail, here's my contact information. That concludes today's Quickenar. Hope you enjoyed it and it was helpful, and I look forward to talking to you about board engagement, any other way that I can help, and seeing you on future Quickenars. Thank you.